Hey everybody, it's Harry from BBQ. Welcome to my channel where I show you how to master barbecue so you can spread barbecue love. Today's episode is in response to one of my viewer requests about cooking briskets hot and fast on their Weber Kettle. So I'm going to cover today 7 fundamental techniques for those of you who are new at cooking hot and fast briskets on your Weber Kettle. First fundamental is the meat and how to trim it. And the way you select the brisket is you select it based on the size, symmetry, striations and marbling, and the grade of beef. There are about 8 grades of beef in America. The 3 that you're familiar with are prime, choice, and select. Below that you have other categories such as canner, cutter, commercial, and so on. So the first thing you want to do is pick a good grade of beef and make sure that it has a nice shape and it's the right size you want. I'm cooking a kind of a small brisket today. Usually I cook briskets comes in the 15 to 18 pound range, but this 11.5 pound brisket is good for teaching purposes. First thing you want to do is take the brisket out of the cryo wet pack. We have a packer brisket that has the point muscle and the flat muscle intact. The point is the fatty muscle, also where the burn ends come from. So we're cooking a backyard brisket today, so I'm not going to separate the point from the flat. We're just going to cook a whole packer brisket. Once we take it out of the packaging, you notice I put away the purge in the bag, right in the trash. We never want to wash our meat in the sink because you end up contaminating your sink, followed by contaminating your sink handle, and then the rest of your kitchen then is going to be contaminated. So I'm trimming brisket, and I'm going to show you guys how we trim a brisket. For a backyard trim, you just remove some of the fat and some of the silver skin covering the meat, so that when you apply the rub is going to be able to adhere to the protein instead of falling off when the fat melts. Now this video is a primer video more for backyard. I have many other brisket videos that I talk you through the process for competition brisket, including covering advanced techniques such as using injections, various mopping techniques. So this one is a back to basics video. So what I'm doing is I'm just trimming some excess fat out of here, leaving everything intact. So the back is intact, everything's nice. A little bit of a gash here, but that's okay. So the brisket is nicely trimmed, and the next thing we want to do now is go ahead and prepare our seasonings. We're gonna make a simple rub now. Ordinarily when I cook my beef, I would use my First Place USA beef rub, but for today, I'm gonna keep it simple. I'll show you guys how to make a simple Dalmatian rub. We fill it with salt, about probably 40% salt and 60% of black pepper. So some salt in there. A little bit more black pepper than salt, so kind of like a 60-40. So maybe 60% of black pepper, coarse black pepper, and 40% of some good kosher salt. This is a diamond crystal salt. And then the secret ingredient, as I showed you in my previous video, is add a little bit of celery seed. That will give it a very nice flavor, as well as give it a nice smoke ring. So maybe about just 5-10% of celery seed right here on top. So you can see the layers, kind of like that. Okay, so that makes about kind of 1 cup of rub. Mix it up nicely. There's a beautiful aroma of the pepper, celery seed. And pour it back in. And the rub is ready to be applied on the brisket. The second fundamental hot and fast brisket is to use a schmear and a rub. So you might be wondering what a schmear is. A schmear is nothing more than some liquid or paste you put on the meat so that the rub that you made will stick to it. A lot of times people like to use things like mustard, but when I do brisket, I kind of have 3 that I like. I use sometimes a Maggi seasoning. I sometimes also use Lee & Perrins Worcestershire as my schmear. And on occasion, I also use a little bit of beef concentrate. This kind of tastes like concentrated soy sauce. So these are the 3 I like. I'm going to do like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So I'm going to schmear the first piece here with a little bit of beef concentrate to make the meat wet so that the rub will stick. The second one I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Worcestershire schmear on the middle part here. Show you a little bit of variation in technique. They all work really well, so just whatever you have handy in your pantry or whatever you like. And the last one is using a little bit of the Knorr Maggi seasoning, which is the kind of a salty seasoning that is used to flavor foods, and apply it right here. This is optional. You don't have to use a schmear if you don't want to, but I just wanted to kind of show you different techniques that Champion Pitmasters use. It's your choice as to whether you want to use a schmear or not, but it's all good because now the brisket is really nice and wet. So when I apply the seasoning, it's going to be able to stick very nicely. We'll apply the seasoning here that we made, which is sort of a Dalmatian rub, spiked with a little bit of celery seed. You're gonna need to apply the rub until the meat beneath becomes somewhat opaque. That will tell you that's enough rub. It may seem like a lot, but a brisket can take a lot of seasoning because it's a very thick cut of meat. And it's going to be able to absorb the flavors of the seasoning, absorb the smoke and the heat from the pit, and be ready in a few hours. So we're gonna cook it hot and fast. We're gonna try to cook it in a kettle for about 400 degrees until we set the crust. So there you go, seasoning's done. I used probably about half cup of seasoning on a 12-pound brisket. The third brisket hot and fast fundamental is to be able to set up your Weber Kettle with hot and cool zones. I have my Weber Kettle set up here with the wings on each side, and it's filled with Jealous Devil charcoal, which is a very hot burning charcoal. I love this charcoal and I use it for competition because it burns clean, has very good smoke, and has very little ash and lasts a long time. So I have Jealous Devil here together with the starter cube on each side. We're gonna light it up and then get it up to about 400 degrees. You notice I left a little drip tray here in the middle to catch the brisket drippings, so I don't have to spend so much time cleaning my kettle after the cook. The fourth fundamental of the hot and fast brisket is using wood and smoke. What I've done is I've actually put a chunk of pecan on each wing underneath here as well as here, so that when the charcoal burns, the wood will smolder for the maximum smoke effect. It's not correct to throw the wood chunks on top of the fire because the wood will burn. Burning wood doesn't do much for barbecue. You need wood to smolder. So there is a resin in the wood that needs to smolder. So when you throw it underneath the coals versus on top, it will smolder a lot better and get into the sweet spot. I use 2 chunks of pecan. You can use any wood you like. For brisket, it works really well with hickory, any kind of strong flavored wood. Pecan is good. Some people like cherry also, but for my favorite is hickory, pecan, and apple for my briskets. Putting the brisket in the middle, and as a tip, what we do is before we put the brisket on, we put a few blocks of wood in the middle so that we can get the brisket to sit upright so that it doesn't pool, and the liquid will drain off the flat so that we can get a nice bark. Place the brisket right on top, right in the middle, in sort of the cool zone. And you notice how the wood will prop up the brisket, give it a nice dome shape so that any liquid cooking will drain, so we will have excellent bark. When you put the lid on, always be sure that if the wings are on the left and the right, the hole or the exhaust damper goes right in the middle, like so that you have a circulation of hot air this way and a circulation of hot air this way, so that the air will circulate on the left and the right chamber and then exhaust out through this one to give you a nice draft within your Weber kettle to cook hot and fast brisket. Alright, hot and fast fundamental number 5 is bark and smoke ring. Keep the brisket hydrated, and that will allow you to establish a good bark. Alright, the 6th fundamental of cooking brisket hot and fast on a Weber kettle is to go ahead and wrap. So I'm going to wrap it here in some butcher paper. Alright, brisket is ready, and the wrap has been completed. And this is the last stage of the brisket, which is tip number 7, checking for doneness. And you can check the doneness by poking it with a probe, like so. and then feeling the tenderness. It's nice and tender. So that's the best way to ensure that the brisket is tender, to probe it. You can use temperature, but it's not so reliable. So I'm gonna unwrap the brisket now. It's a little hot, but I'm gonna go ahead and slice it anyway. So just a note here, when you wrap in butcher paper, that means that I'm not using any foil liquid during the wrapping process. If you're wrapping with a mop or some kind of beef broth, you've got to use foil because the paper initially is not enjoy this brisket now. It's gonna be really fabulous. So again, thanks guys for coming by my channel. Remember, I teach you how to master barbecue so you can spread barbecue love. Thanks again for helping me hit 20,000 subscribers and you know, giving me all these ideas of what the things you want to see. So until the next episode, we'll see ya.